Thank you for coming. So, just as the federal government is responsible for the protection of its citizens against foreign threats, disparity, or injustice, it is also responsible for supporting the minds of its population in its pursuit of education. As John Adams, one of the founding fathers, said, "The whole people must take upon themselves the education of the whole people and must be willing to bear the expense of it." Because of this, we affirm that the U.S. federal government should enact the Free College for All Act. But before we can explain our argument further, four terms must first be defined. First, Free College for All Act. This act is a bill proposed by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders to decrease the cost of tuition for colleges. Two, what is college? This bill defines colleges as public four-year universities and community colleges. Three, all. According to this proposal, tuition would be abolished for students whose household annual income is $125,000 or lower at four-year public universities, and it would abolish the tuition at community colleges, regardless of what the student's income is. Fourth and finally, free. Enabling this act would be free for those students, but it will still come at a cost, of course. With this bill, funding would be extracted from a tax placed on any bonds, stocks, or derivatives sold by members on the trade market on Wall Street. So taking a look at our world today, we can see that the current education system is flawed and that it is extremely expensive to achieve a college degree from not only four-year universities, but also community colleges, even with the assistance of government Pell Grants. The need for a college degree is dramatically increasing today. Employers are always looking for potential workers who are not only skilled, but educated as well. Considering the current percent of college enrollment is only at 69.2% in the United States, the steadily increasing unemployment rate in this country could be solved with the help of a greater number of educated people in the workforce. This idea of free education affecting the job force has been seen in other countries across the world. For example, to combat its surplus of jobs and lack of qualified persons to fill it, Germany has implemented free education with very positive results. Seeing the progress of these countries, it seems that now is the time for the United States to follow suit and renovate its educational system. Having observed the current situation, there are two overarching advantages to our resolution. Firstly, adopting the Free College for All Act will increase the access for education. Currently, these high costs not only make it difficult for students to pay for college, but they also deter people from even attempting it all in the first place. Those coming from disadvantaged backgrounds are discouraged from pursuing a higher education because the costs make a degree seem unattainable, almost like a wasted dream. In fact, in a recent survey, close to half of the participants reported that the high cost of attendance deterred them from pursuing education beyond high school. Tuition rates are rising by 6% each year, and experts speculate that in just 18 years, the cost of a college degree may cost up to $500,000. So, by implementing this act, those eligible for tuition exemption would be alleviated from this bondage of high costs and loan debt, which would affect approximately 86% of the population. And secondly, this resolution will increase postgraduate success. Tuition rates are rising faster than wage rates, making it difficult for graduated students to remove themselves from debt and find success in their postgraduate lives. How can we expect for newly graduated students to go directly from college into the workforce while supporting themselves and paying for their immense student debt? While it may seem easy, this can prove to be very difficult for these emerging adults. And in today's world, a college degree, again, is an expectation in the workforce. Georgetown University reports that by the year 2020, 65% of the jobs in the economy will require post-secondary education and training beyond high school. So we propose our resolution will reverse this issue by increasing the chances for success for students with degrees. Considering the current situation of the American education system, with students feeling both pressured to achieve a college degree and deterred from doing so by the intimidating tuition fees and potential debt bondage, it's obvious that now is the time for change. And in order to fix this present system, it is imperative that the U.S. government enact Senator Sanders' Free College for All Act to ensure that the future of our nation has proper access to education, which is a priceless and fundamental human right.
Yep. The affirmative party is advocating that the U.S. federal government
could you put it in full screen so I could?
should enact the Free College for All Act to help more students obtain a college education, as this can only help strengthen an individual's career and create a better educated society as a whole. This, however, will not be the outcome of enacting this bill. This bill will simply redistribute the burden of paying for an individual's education off of the individual themselves and place it on the taxpayers in this country. There is no such thing as a free education, just like there is no such thing as a free lunch. We negate the U.S. federal government should enact the Free College for All Act. In order to understand the argument my colleagues and I will lay out against the Free College for All Act, we must first define the terms Free College for All Act, and U.S. federal government. Definition 1. Merriam-Webster defines free as not costing or charging anything. The idea that there would be no cost is false. If funds were not coming from the students themselves, they would be coming from the taxpayers. Because most students are taxpayers, they would be inadvertently paying for their own college tuition as well as other students' tuition. Inversely, taxpayers who have already gone to college or are not going to college would also be picking up the bill for others. Definition 2. We define the Free College for All Act as United States Senate Bill 806 as introduced by Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont. Introduced to the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions on April 3, 2017. An article by USA Today breaks down the Senate Bill 806 as stating the bill intends to abolish tuition and fees for public four-year colleges and universities from households making $125,000 or less per year, and would make community college tuition free for students of all income levels. Definition 3. The U.S. federal government is defined by and consists of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government, whose powers reside in the President, the Congress, and the U.S. Constitution. Our first contention is that the cost of this bill would be too great, and it would raise taxes significantly. First, if public universities and community college became tuition-free, the financial burden would have to fall somewhere, or this financial burden would result as an increase on taxes for Wall Street. According to Senator Bernie Sanders' website, the estimated cost of the bill would be $600 billion. That's more than the current United States defense budget. Second, according to the plan laid out on Senator Sanders' website, in order to pay for this, Senator Sanders would need a second bill that would increase taxes on Wall Street. Third, only 2/3 of this bill would be covered by the Wall Street tax. The final $200 billion would rely on state governments to pass laws and budget proposals to compensate for students in their individual states. If the Obamacare state exchanges serve as any example, the state governments cannot be relied on to support this bill should it become law. Senator Sanders' proposal simply relies on too many pieces that are out of his control to fall into place. Contention 2 is that the free college for all is not sustainable. First, if college were free for all, the universities and colleges would see an increase in the student body. This would require more financial backing in order to sustain a larger student population. Where would this money come from? According to writer Ellen Anderson for the College Raptor, in an article titled "The Pros and Cons of Tuition-Free College," student fees would be significantly raised. Second, if free college were provided, how would there be physically enough campus space to provide an effective learning environment for students? Parking, food, and other necessities would need to be taken into account if such a large influx of students began attending a school for free. Contention 3. If everyone has a college education for free, it will devalue a degree. In a newspaper article published by the independent student newspaper of Boston College, it states by instituting free tuition, public universities will lose the competitive edge that makes them so elite. The value of public degrees would significantly decrease, and private colleges would begin to excel in comparison. This sudden gap in quality will allow private universities to increase their tuition since their enrollment will be in higher demand. A truly advanced education will be less available to the middle and lower class, creating an elitist system. Second, this reduction in competition between the universities would greatly alter our education system. In order for the United States to be effective in the global market, it must also have a competitive workforce. Third, if free college were provided at all, the excessive number of graduates would be too much in some areas of the workforce. There would be too many people who are overqualified for certain jobs. In conclusion, this outrageous $600 billion cost of this bill, combined with the unsustainability and the damage it will do in devaluing college degrees from public universities and creating oversaturated job markets, the only sensible action is to not enact this supposedly free College for All Act.
What was his name? What is your name?
Leslie. Spelled Leslie. Okay, so I will be defending and extending on our argument as well as theirs. So one thing that y'all mentioned was taxes. Yes, it would raise taxes. However, it would be taxes on places like Wall Street and other places. Another good example that fights that is, yes, like Germany. Germany raised taxes, and their taxpayers are more than happy to pay for this because they have, again, a surplus of jobs and a shortage of people. And so they're offering free college for not only their own residents, but they're welcoming Americans to come in hopes that they're going to stay, and they're going to help increase the number of jobs, or help decrease the number of jobs that are available. All right, so you say that student fees would be raised, and as we mentioned, that when we say free, we mean tuition. So that doesn't cover housing, that doesn't cover food, and you have to keep in mind that such things like FAFSA, they pay for all of this, but they also take into account like, oh, okay, my dad makes $120,000 a year, and so I would be covered. But if someone makes lower than that, and so they can only send their eldest to college, then they're not going to be able to send their 3 other kids to college, which isn't fair to them. Like my partner said, education is a right. Everyone should if anyone wants to go to college, they should be able to do that. And when it comes to devaluing degrees and also overpopulating colleges, you did mention that people who wouldn't go to college would be paying for it, and so that wasn't fair. It's just that the people who this would give more of an option to go to college, and I think talking faster than my brain. So this would okay, sorry, I'm used to preparing. Okay, so people are typically scared about going to college after high school because it does cost so much. Here at UNT, our tuition is only about $25,000, or less than that if you get FAFSA. But I think if we get the free tuition, we would have more people welcoming this because everyone wants us to have degrees to work, and that would increase the number of qualified. And you say that too many people would be overqualified to do certain jobs. And yes, that could be true, but there is some people who just have no desire to go to college. And you'd say this needs more financial backing. You have to think the people who are alum, we have a huge alumni association here at UNT that is willing to pay for a lot of things. And so we would say, and like one of the points that we did make was, yes, the possibility of we wouldn't have good enough teachers. But you have to keep in mind too, people go to school to become teachers because that's their passion. They love to teach. They love giving people this education. And you also brought up that there's not enough area. We all know here at UNT there's literally no parking ever. And although you have to keep in mind, if there is increased population, this is something that they will take into account. That means that if we have an increase in 10,000 students, then they're going to implement 10,000 more parking spaces. And yeah, I can't think anymore. So, thank you.
Okay, who's the next person?
I'm Aaron. Do you know what these markers were? And can I write on the board?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just checking before I.
Before you speak, make sure that it works.
Actually, can I use this one?
Yeah, that's fine. Can we kind of provide so we can see it?
I think you can still here.
You can't see the writing.
I know.
Oh, hold on. Can you use the blue one? Is the blue one better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, my name's Aaron, and I'm going to be defending our points and attacking their points for the not enacting the Free College for All Act. To start off, I'm going to, well, I have a bunch of numbers, basically. The first number I'm going to put up is 566,198. That is the U.S. national debt as of this morning, when I checked around 11. That is how in debt we are. That is not okay. And and this bill is just going to increase it. It's going to increase it by such an amount that it isn't even remotely okay. Look at this, look at this. Here, at UNT, the University of North Texas in Denton, the cost of each individual class is $1,375 per class. With 5 classes, and you're taking 15 hours, that's $6,875 per student per semester. And then if you take the total number of students at UNT, which is 37,973, and multiply those together, you get, where did that go? I've lost my mind. It's $261,064,375 per semester at UNT. This isn't for a year, this is for a half a year. That's it. And then, and this is honestly one of the cheaper schools in the state. I did the math as well for Texas A&M, where they have 66,425 students, and their cost per semester for 5 classes is, did I write that down? Where'd that go? $13,726 per semester. And so, if you multiply both of those together, you get 911,749,550 per semester. And if you add both of those together, you get $1,172,813,925 for half a year at 2 colleges in Texas alone. There are 38 colleges in this school that are not private and are not community colleges. That doesn't even include that. If you double this and add up what a whole year will be, it's $2,345,627,850 per year for 2 colleges. That's it. The plan that Bernie Sanders wants to enact is to put out $600 billion over a 10-year period that he plans to get from Wall Street and from the taxpayers. This is not enough money. This isn't enough at all. It's not going to cover anything, even remotely. And it's just not going to cover it. It's just going to go directly into the pockets of the taxpayers after the Wall Street tax, which he honestly states isn't going to cover the whole thing anyway. He says right there that it's not going to cover the whole thing. It'll cover about 2/3, right? But that's not even the main problem. The main problem is if we enact this, and we get it free, right? More people are going to show up. They're going to need to hire more teachers. They're going to have to pay more people. They're going to have to build more parking. They're going to have to make more food, hire more people. It's going to be this endless, giant hole of spending money that we do not have right now. We just don't have the money at all. We just don't have the money. We don't have the money.
So is that, what is that figure, the 1,375?
That's per 5 classes at UNT
For
for
one
one
student?
semester, for one student.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I got all of this math from, which I can go over if you would like. Oh, okay. But that's only the very tip of the iceberg, is this amount of money that we just do not have right now. Especially if you get more students, yes.
So are you arguing that, is your side's argument that you shouldn't enact it because we should be taxing even more?
No, I'm saying if you enact it, it's going to eventually raise taxes so much so because of how expensive it is entirely.
Stop.
Excuse me, 1 second. Oh, you can't see that.
Okay, so there are some things that the opposition has said that I would love to refute. First off, you made a wonderful point about how having more people coming to college is going to mean that we're going to need more facilities, more places for the students to go, which sounds a lot to me like making more jobs. And what does making more jobs do? It stimulates that economy. It gets things going. So yes, it is going to create jobs, which is another advantage of enabling this act. I would also like to point out, again, that those being taxed are on Wall Street. And I think that you could argue that those people are not going to be very immensely hurt by such a tax, considering they're already making so much. And even then, there are still other ways that we could gain revenue for this bill to make tuition free. For example, Tennessee actually made it so that their community colleges are free, and they did so by funding it through the state lottery, which is, because the states have to provide about 33% of the cost, which is about $23 billion. So by using Tennessee as an example, I think it's pretty feasible that all the states could build up enough revenue using those kinds of methods like the state lottery, which is a great idea, and we've already seen it to be a really positive method. Something else I would really want to point out is the whole idea that having free college is going to devalue education. I think that's could be argued that that's a very an unethical thing to say, because education is a right. Everyone has the right to enrich themselves, and making it free does not devalue it at all. We have free art museums. You go to an art museum and see art for free. Does that make art worthless? No, it doesn't. It's something that's beautiful and enriching and good for the brain, and to surround yourself with all this culture is the same thing with education. If you want to be educated, why can't you go out there and get that at a low cost? And again, with the argument that the first speaker made about it not being sustainable because it would create a need for more jobs, that's not really that much of a disadvantage, because those people who are being educated by free college are going to become more qualified so that they can fill those positions. We need to think about this issue in the long term. In the long term, this is going to be a great thing because it is going to make it possible for people to go out and get better jobs. In fact, where is it at? The statistics show that by getting a college degree, you are more likely to get positions for jobs. And also, something else I would like to point out about the whole devaluing of education real quickly is that this act also includes provisions which would place requirements on schools so that their standards wouldn't fall too low. So those are actually protected by the act. According to it, it's going to make it so that states must keep spending on specific academic programs and need-based financial aid. And also, they must guarantee that after 5 years, at least 75% of instruction is taught by tenured or tenure-track professors. So, by implementing this act, it's not going to decrease the quality of schools. It's protected. It's in there. And also, I just wanted to reiterate again that education is a universal right, and it's really important that it's extended to everyone and we don't have these price barriers that are deterring people from even trying at all, and also keeping them out of debt.
What's your name?
Michael.
Alright, whenever you're ready.
Okay. I'm Michael, and I'm going to be starting by refuting some of the points made by the opposing team. First of all, your team mentioned Europe, and more specifically Germany. And upon doing some research, according to an article in Business Insider, although many European countries such as Germany and Denmark offer free college, their college enrollment percentages are actually much lower than the United States. So it's a lot less of a, what's the word, a prized opportunity to attend a college like it is here in the States. It's a lot more, it's not as sought after in Europe from what the statistics show. These European countries are able to provide free college because they have a much higher income tax, which as of 2014 was 49.3% in Germany, while in the United States in 2014 it was 31.5%. So that actually just shows the massive difference between the income tax and how they're actually able to afford free college for everybody. And also, if the U.S. were to have free college, it would likely affect the taxes, because as stated previously, the $600 billion Bernie Sanders deal, $400 billion would come from Wall Street, and the remaining $200 billion would have to be raised, most likely from taxpayers. Second of all, I would like to address the point of it helping students from lower income families. In an article by Roger Feldman in the Star Tribune, it explains the Sanders plan would cover families with a salary up to $125,000 per year. This means a large portion of students receiving the free tuition would actually not need it. Because, quote, according to the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Study in 2011 to 2012, 54.2% of dependent students enrolled in two-year colleges came from families earning less than $60,000 per year, while only 38.4% of those attending four-year universities came from families earning less than $60,000 a year. So this data just confirms that the free college would mainly benefit students from wealthier families. And I also would like to address the Tennessee example you used, which I actually liked, and I agree that that actually is a good way to stimulate some revenue, would be with the lottery. But I don't see how that has anything to do with raising money from Wall Street or from taxpayers. But I agree that that would be a beneficial way to raise money. I just don't see the relevance to the Bernie Sanders plan. So again, the money would not cover all of the universities in the United States, just from the addition of University of North Texas and University of Texas at A&M would already be that over $1 billion just for 2 universities. So it just simply wouldn't be enough.
Sorry, Charles.
What's your name one more time?
Leslie.
What's that
Okay, so for our conclusion, we believe the U.S. government should enact Free College for All Act because education is a right that not everyone can attain. We have presented today that enacting this movement will give access to those who want to pursue higher education, as well as introducing the opportunity for increased postgraduate success. As my partner said earlier in our case opening, by 2020, 65% of jobs in the economy will require post-secondary education, and so we should give them the opportunity to get that post-secondary education. As well as increasing the access for education and for low-income and middle-income families. You did mention that it would more so help those with higher income, but as stated even in the bill for Senator Sanders, is that it would be for those who make up to $125,000. And so those from a higher income wouldn't technically be affected. And with your number, it's gigantic and very scary, but that you said that's for all of the U.S.? That includes defense spending? Okay, so just school? Oh. Yes, $600 billion isn't that great of a number compared to that, but it would help. It would help those who need it. It would help those who don't have what they can to be in higher education, and that is over 10 years. And so over those 10 years, even if it's just a little, it will help. I know that I would like my little sister to go to college of her choice and not be afraid to pursue her dreams, even if it be she wants to be president or a famous basketball player, because she's scared of the big number. Back to the post-grad success. With the greater experience that higher education offers you, there is a more chance to be better prepared in the job field that you're going into. So, and as well as having a degree in today's world increases your prospective income by 56%, 56% compared to those who have just had diplomas. So right now, the cost is gigantic, as obviously you pointed out, and it's still increasing. So why not give the people who want to go to college the chance to? Education is a right. Education is a right that anyone who wants to should be able to reach it. Thank you.
All right, whatever.
In conclusion, I see where you're coming from. I do. You're both extremely idealistic. You seem very kind. You're very passionate, and I can understand that. You want everyone to be equal, to be able to go on and do what they love and what they dream, and that's what America's about, right? You're supposed to be able to do that. I don't want to be the bad guy, but I kind of have to, because I have to sit here and I have to go, please look at this. Please, I don't mean to be mean. America is broke. We don't got the money to do this. Find a way to make some money. We can come back in 20 years. But entire Bernie Sanders bill as a whole does not cover enough of a cost. It does not have alternate solutions to getting more money. It does not have any kind of way to, if we start falling down a hole, there is no stopping falling down the hole. There is just no way to stop it. And that is the main problem. I can understand that. I can understand all of your points, and I can understand where you're coming from, and I agree. Do you see how much I pay for tuition? That is ridiculous, and that is unacceptable. However, there are alternate ways to do it than circumventing the entire system and going, screw it, let's make everything free. Because it just won't work in the long run. It just won't. Not because of just financial reasons, but also because of job oversaturation with people being too overqualified for positions and jobs. Anyway. Anyway. In conclusion, it would be great if we could afford to do this, and if it was sustainable to do this, and if it wouldn't just make a giant pit. It would be great. But we can't right now. We can't. We don't have the money. There is no. I mean, if Bernie Sanders' bill literally had any information like, oh, we're gonna get, $600 billion for however much it was from Wall Street, like, okay, you say right there that's not enough. What about the rest of it? What about the things it's going to make increase? Like, is there a solution to that or no? And because there's not, it's just going to create a bad situation. It's just going to spiral downward. And it feels horrible to be the one who have to go, hey, it's a great idea. It's too idealistic. It's like socialism. Like, great on paper, terrible in theory. Because people suck. And they are going to ruin it for everyone else. And I do completely understand where you're coming from. I agree. I want all the kids to be able to grow up and be whatever they want to be. But they can't right now. And I hate to have to be the one to say that, but it's true. And not only that, one of the main things that I've just heard all day is we have a right to an education. Which I agree. You do not have a right to make me pay for your education.
That's how you really feel.
Good job, OT. Good job. Good job.
Sorry for my mini panic attack.
No, you're fine. Don't even worry about it.